This part, you just get a little cutscene, and then you just run straight right. So how this part works, by the way, as far as the Great Glacier goes, is there is a separate step counter. So your step ID, you know, is doing its normal thing, but there is a separate step ID counter that just counts how many steps you've taken in the Great Glacier, and once you've taken too many, you pass out. So, so we're going to go through in a way where we're not going to pass out, and we're going to go straight up to the dungeon. So the first thing is to go right, and then on these screens, you see this screen 3 times in a row, and each time I buffer up right into the room, and then switch to just right at a time where it'll hit, it'll pass this corner right here, just right off the rest of the screen. So right, so upright, into right for the rest of the screen, each time. So buffer and upright again, switch to right, buffer and upright, switch to right, and then the next time we switch, or the next screen is a screen where we buffer upright. So on this screen, luckily this is just another buffer upright screen, so it's very easy to remember. And then about, you know, right here or about here, I switch to just up, and it's up throughout the entire rest of the screen. It's just up until you're out of the screen. So switch to up all the way until the end of the screen. So after the straight up, or after you go straight up, for these next couple rooms, the fastest way to get through them is to go only left. Only left. However, the second of these 2 screens has the added cut materia in it. And so let's show, I'm going to show the movement, and then we're going to show with the step route. So for the movement, we're just going to put danger. We're going to freeze danger at 0. And I can show you that. So what you do is it's only left to get through this room in the fewest steps. And then, though, you need to do a little bit of up left. A little bit of up left in order to get yourself up to added cut. So the added cut materia is right there. I go up left until about this shadow right here that's coming out, and then switch to just left for the rest of the screen. So it's up left into about left. I went too far up there. You can also kind of zigzag it if you want. And then after that screen, the next screen is buffer up left into it. This screen is actually not live, so you are just fine on this screen. It's not live, but to go fast, just buffer up left and then just straight up out of the screen. And then we have one more of this screen here where you just go left. One more of these of just left, and then another screen of just left that looks different. So that one's like this, just go straight left. All right, so that is it without step route. Let's talk about the current step route and what happens if you're on that. On the first screen, you get into a battle pretty soon. When I gave myself steps earlier, I think I overdid it a little bit. That's pretty late to get that fight. But that's just fine. As long as you get this fight on this screen, you don't have to take the steps right away. In fact, you can time out your next steps by going to added cut. So what I do is just buffer running left out of that fight, and then buffer walking up left into this next screen, making it much easier to time with the shadow here, where you go up left, switch to left at the shadow, start mashing circle until you've gotten added cut, and then start running. And then once again, this room is up left, into up, and then it's 2 more screens of just left. Okay, so this next section is pretty interesting because it is technically a world map section. So after you go through that screen, here we are. This is actually a world map. And so let's swap over to our world map here. You can see we've got our negative 140 fractions. So what you are supposed to do on this part is I think just going straight north is how you get through this. Now, I say I think because there's another way to do it that I'll show you. But your goal that you're trying to do is run straight north. And do you see how clear the grid lines are for the squares of this snow texture? You can use that to, even though the camera is spinning around, you can use these grid lines to make sure that you're always running in the correct direction. So so just keep running north here. However, we got into a fight. And it is generally expected to get into a fight if you go straight forward. If you go straight north the entire time. And so I'll show you the alternate movement that that stops you from getting into a fight most of the time. But here, that was a very long attack animation that also did a bunch of damage to the party, so that was pretty bad. But there we go. Afterward, we made it through, and here's the next screen. So let's talk about the alternate movement. The alternate movement is to go right and then go up, because we're going to load out and back into the world map in order to refresh our fractions. And so you can use, you see all these grid lines. You can use this grid line right here in front of you to be your marker for going right. So I buffer upright until I'm at that, and then I just go right. When in doubt, slightly past it, you know, just past the grid line, or just north of it. And what that will do is it'll load you into this field where you just buffer left back out of the field. So this is a field, and then so once you load into the field, just buffer left to run back out of the field, and then we're going back into the world map now. Our fractions have refreshed to -140. Our danger has refreshed to 0 because we just loaded out and back into the world map. So this time, buffer up and left until you're at this grid line. So basically right when you can see cloud, switch to up. And this movement usually gets you through this world map part without getting into any fights. Usually. Just like that. The downside to doing that is that it costs a step. When you load into that other field and then run back out, I think it's like 5 or 6 fractions you spend in there, which means you have a chance for it to not cost you a step. But most of the time it does. This screen is not live, by the way, and you can just avoid the cabin here and go straight up into upright, about right here. And now we get into a pretty interesting room. It is now time for the climb. There are a couple things to unpack about this screen. So let's take a save state here. First of all, you're on the clock. Now, on these screens, you can mash square to raise your body temperature back up, and if Cloud's body temperature goes all the way down to 26, you pass out, you respawn in the cabin, which not only is a huge waste of time, but also kills your steps. So, don't let that happen. However, this first screen is actually quick enough where if you are real good, you can get through this screen without ever needing to cool down, or warm up, I mean. So, first of all, that requires buffering up as you get in here. And then straight up into this one, you can grab it. And then this next one, buffering up right off of the climb over to the next one. And then this next one, buffer up left. And grab it. And lastly, upright. And if you are fast enough, you should be just good. Just hold up and run and trust it. Just trust. And there you go. You made it without having to stop and warm up. So, this is also the part of the route where if your steps were behind, you'll actually get an encounter outside, and if you do, it's a Malboro. So that's real bad. That's like why steps are so important on this part of the route and why this part is so like sketchy. Is because Marlboro fights are very scary, especially when you don't have the ribbon yet. Because if they do bad breath, they turn everybody into a sleeping frog, and then your run is dead. So yeah, it's scary. Okay, another thing about this room though. Speaking of steps, let's talk about something that you can do here. If we run straight up and right, and then we bonk right here, check this out. If I'm still holding the D-pad and X while I press circle, we're at 168.96 right now. It goes up to 160 on fractions. Yeah? And that's just from me holding up and right and pressing circle. Even though we talked about how your movement over to a ladder is free, we lost fractions doing that. But if I just press circle without the D-pad held, our fractions didn't go up. So this area specifically, I haven't seen it anywhere else, but this area specifically, you actually save fractions by not having the D-pad held down while Cloud grabs a ladder. You can still hold X down so that he runs to it, but if you want to save steps, run over and release the D-pad when you hit circle. Now, the issue with this is that this can cause you to have to then... You have to react to when Cloud actually grabs the vine, or the wall, or whatever you say, which means that you're losing frames every time because you're not running right away, which means it's that much tighter to get out of the room without warming up, but it saves steps. And so... that is just a tiny little step-saving thing, but it's quite significant. I think there are 3 climbing rooms, and so I think it saves like 2 whole steps to do that technique. So yeah, that's a thing. All right. We are into Gaea's Cliff now. It's got a lot of little movement to it. So first of all, I've seen people run straight forward here and then go right. I usually just go right first and then go up. And you'll get into a battle. Oh, well, with this step route, you get into a battle right away. And I think it's the... no, it's these guys. Right. So on this step route, then, we've got 7 steps at this point, and then it's our first Stilva. Unfortunately, Cloud is behind something here. But this is one of those cases where you can move a little bit and then take the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... And then on this next room, I buffer left and then switch to down left about halfway through that part, you know? Now, this room is a little complicated to get your fractions just right. I've been harping this whole time about how 8-directional movement is suboptimal for getting through screens in the fewest amount of fractions. And this is exactly a spot where you can take advantage of it. If we run down and right just long enough to be able to switch to just right and then slide along this wall, that saves us some fractions. So I go down right into right, slide along the wall, and then you go into the cave here and start going down right again. But that time I do it a little bit differently. So this part I'm already buffering down right when I come in here and then switch to just right. Go down a little bit into the cave here, but then for the cave, I actually start holding R for the cave instead of down right. About right there. And the reason that I do this is because now there's a chest to baby towards. And it's hard to tap a diagonal, right? So that's why I use R here to tap towards this chest. And make sure that you don't, make sure that you don't go too close to it and lose steps. And then, so this one's got the ribbon in it, which is very nice. And then back up and left, and switch to up right around this corner here. And then use this wall to move next. So it's straight up, and then start going left, up left into left around this wall as you go up. And you should, on this step route, get into the Stilva fight. One thing of note is that if you're not on a step route, the thing that you absolutely need to achieve random battle-wise in this area is you need to get this fight at some point, and you need to learn Magic Breath from it. So this fight is why we equipped the Fire Ring on Cloud and the Bolt Armlet on Tifa earlier that I was talking about, and why we put Comet on Cloud. So first, we're going to poke him with Sid. And the reason I poke him with Sid is because we have to wait for this thing's ATB to go up anyway between its turns. And Cloud might not do quite 2,000 damage to it with his Comet. So these little pokes with Sid just sure up the damage. Here comes the Magic Breath. Magic Breath is what we're looking for. This is going to kill Sid, not Tifa or Cloud though. It's going to teach us Magic Breath on all 3 of our enemy skills. And then Cloud's, there, 1945. He has, the Stilva has 2,000 HP, so that's why those Sid pokes were so good. And there you go. That's the Stilva fight. Just gotta wait for it to Magic Breath you, poke it in the meantime, cast a Comet afterward. And that's Stilva. That's learning Magic Breath. So now, what we're aiming for here as we're going is we're aiming for this this door right here. So I go straight left as long as I can because this wall points us directly towards the door. So that's really optimal movement for that amount of time. So straight left and then left, up, left, up when you have to. This room also has some fancy stuff to it. This is a very dense area as far as like strats go. So if you go straight up left, you'll bonk right here. So this room is a up left with a little bit of up right there to get into this room. And then you just hold up left until the camera stops moving. When the camera stops moving, Cloud has initiated an auto run to the top of the exit of the little cave. So you should be buffering down and right. So it's up left until the camera stops moving. Switch to down right at that point, and you're going to go down right until you're above the boulder, like the left side of the boulder, and then switch to straight down so you can mash circle on the boulder to kick it. So once again, that's up left, camera stopped, switch to down right, straight down, talk to the boulder. And now when you push this boulder, check this out about our step ID. When you push this boulder, this screen becomes not live until the boulder finishes its animation, which is plenty of time for you to leave the room without getting any more steps. So, kick the boulder, buffering up left for the movement, or I guess you have to go up a little bit. And then I just kind of like swing Cloud around, go all the way down out of the screen, and there you go. We're still on step ID 88. Okay, so now we got to go back down and around again. So I go down right just a little bit, into right, into down right again to once again use this wall. This chest has the javelin in it, which we don't need. So boom, and then whip around here and kind of up left into that door. All right, now for this room we're going up and around this way, and for this route we expect a fight. So switch to up right. This is a preemptive, so we can run away, but then we do have steps to take. Is it really 3, or is it 3.5? 1, 2, 3. Oh no, it's 3. Alright, you come around this way, straight right here, into down around that corner. Here I buffer just right, and then get yourself in here. Here's an interesting thing. If you go straight down and brush on this wall, it actually loses you a fraction. So I manually go down and left just a little bit before going straight down into the door. And then the next, what loads next is another climbing section. And so the first climbing section you just start out on. You start out climbing already. Second climbing section, the climb wall is to your left, and the third one, it's to your right. So we're getting to the second one right now, so I'm always just buffering run left and mashing circle, just to grab it as early as we can while the screen fades in. And then once again, to save fractions, remember to not be pressing the D-pad while you make these grabs. Now, every one of the selections that you get here, you just take the top option. So every selection that pops up, just take the top option and go the direction it says. Right here, go right. And now the second climb, also, the last bit of information about it, is that this one you cannot get all the way through without having to stop and shiver. And so I choose to do that on this one right up here. I run upright, and then here I stop and shiver until my degrees are 30. That looked, oh boy, actually, you know, you can go 31 just in case. Because it ticked down to 29 a little bit earlier than I was comfortable with there. All right, and then straight up in, and here we go. So, this room, this one is a upright, and then, oh right, but there's also a fight here. All right, and then after that is 16 steps here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And so, I go just upright on this screen, but then I use a little bit of an L1 tap to just, or a little bit of L1 to get us around this thing, but not all the way around, because it's helpful to brush up against the left side of it, and then it's just upright all throughout the rest of the screen, you know, all the way out here. All right, and then straight forward on this screen. And on this step route, you generally get a battle back here behind this mountain. And if you're using it and you're worried about the fact that you have to take 5 steps after this battle, even though you can't see Cloud right now, fear not. You do have just enough time, even if you got the battle way back behind the mountain. You have just enough time to run down to where you can see Cloud, and just seeing like his arms should even be enough, and then you can do the steps from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's just down right the whole time, even down right. Now you start mashing circle because that opens the fire armlet. And now it is time to talk about Icicles. So, the menu before Icicles. We're going to put the Dragon Armlet on Cloud, and the Dragon Armlet and Water Ring on Cloud, which is also for the, this is both for Icicles and for Schizo. Gaea's Armlet Fire Ring on Tifa as well. That's good for Schizo. So the Dragon Armlet just makes it so that Cloud is very resistant to the different elements of attack that Schizo does. Gaea's Armlet is because Tifa needs to not under-damage Schizo. She needs to do enough damage to him to defeat him in the right number of hits, which we'll get into. And then Fire Ring is to protect her from his fire attacks. Sid has the Fire Armlet, which actually drains his fire attacks, as well as the Ribbon, which comes into play several times, especially with the Icicles. We're about to do these Icicles, and the Bats do this ultrasound attack that silences party members, but we need to use Laser. And so the Ribbon on Sid makes it so that Sid can always cast Laser in these fights. And then we go over to Materia. I'm going to move All Restore over to Cloud. Instead of it being on Sid now. I like it on Cloud at this point. And then on Tifa, we just picked up Added Cut, which we can link to Death Blow now, which isn't immediately useful for Icicles. That's also for Schizo later. And then Elemental Shiva is also for Schizo later. So a lot of this is just for both. Really, the Ribbon is the super important thing for right now. And then All Restore on Cloud is nice because Sid's going to be using MP in order to do lasers here. So, that's that. If anybody's dead, such as Sid from the Magic Breath, it is now time to Phoenix down and Trank him, cure everybody, and switch to ATB Wait for the Icicles. So, that menu then is Dragon Armlet, Water Ring, Gaea's Armlet, Fire Ring. Now, those were all double taps, which is really nice. Again, that only is the case if you kind of do the same exact thing on your menus every time. That you get that nice of a setup here, where it's down to equipment, and it's just boom, 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 boom for those two. Then, Fire Armlet and Ribbon for Sid. Pop over to his Materia, take off All Restore. Pop over to Cloud. Get the All Restore on him. over to Tifa, added cut, and then also elementals right here, and Shiva is a page down and a couple down. The elemental Shiva, once again, that's for later. Then there's the Phoenix down in the Trank, the Cures, and ATB Wait. And now you are ready to fight the Icicles. So here's how the Icicles work. If you want extra money and extra experience, use Magic Breath to kill all the bats. If you just want to go fast, laser the Icicle. Because all you have to do... Ooh, I wish I was faster there. All you have to do is cast laser on the Icicle. And I'm gonna speed it up a little bit here. So the reason that this one-shots the Icicle is because laser is a gravity elemental attack, oddly enough, that does one half of the enemy's HP. Whatever the enemy's HP is, laser does half. But because it's gravity, the Icicle is weak to gravity, so it doubles it. So double half, it just one-shots it. And if you only kill the Icicle, the bats just fly away, and then you're good. So now the bigger idea of this part is we need to defeat the first 3 Icicles and then jump down. So no is the top option on this menu that comes up. So the first 2 times, just pick the top option, say no. Now, getting rid of all restore on Sid means that if his ATB is good enough, you can just buffer down and circle with him to get into his enemy skill menu as quickly as possible. This time, though, we had pretty bad ATB, but hey, he still got it. That is also correct, Cornfed. Yes, this screen is also not live for steps. And yeah, for my particular money route, I do not kill any bats. All right. Once again, and so if you get really rotten ATB and the bats do a lot of ultrasounds and you have to cure the party, just go into your menu and cure the party. Yeah, it's just slow to kill the bats because if you Magic Breath the bats, that doesn't kill the Icicle. So you have to Magic Breath, which is 75 MP, and then cast laser. So it's just a lot slower. It's very quick to laser. Now we got better ATB with Cloud this time. Oh, but he got silenced. Okay. So since Cloud got silenced, we're going with Sid again here. And there we go. There's all 3 Icicles. So now we're going to have to say yes on the menu that comes up. So second option to jump down to the room below. Another very small thing about this fight, especially if you have counterattack equipped on Tifa, is that when I say that that laser does half of an enemy's HP, it rounds down if the HP is odd. So the Icicle has 3,000 HP. Let's say you have counterattack equipped on Tifa, and the Icicle attacks Tifa and she counters it and she does an odd number of damage. That means that the half of its HP gets rounded down, then that gets doubled and it gets left with 2 HP after the laser. So be aware that, like, if an odd number of damage occurs to the Icicle, then you need to follow up an attack with the after the laser. All right. Curing everybody again. And then at this point, switch back to ATB active. So after Icicles, I like to cure up the party and then switch to ATB active. Because we are about to get into a couple more fights here on our way up to Schizo. And one of them has a chance to be a Marlboro if your steps aren't good enough. So this part is a little funky. You should just go like up into upright into up. Oh. But all right. So the enhanced sword is in this chest, and we want it to sell for money later. You don't have to go left to it at all. All you do is you just go straight up, and you can grab it without looking at it. And then this thing is the same right up here, where you get into a fight behind the mountain here. But once again, you have quite a bit of time to actually take your steps after this fight. And I think it's 6.5. But I'm going to take another look just to make sure. Yeah, it's 6.5. So yeah, this one even more so. You have tons of time to run out here and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. Now, as far as the specific movement here goes, I usually try to use down right to hug the right side here. And then when you get to here where you're coming around this corner, you know, I switch to just down and then down left out of the room. Then this room is straight down, not live on steps. And now it's time for the third climb. And I mentioned the third climb. The climby thing is to the right. So buffer right and run, mash circle. And this one is also fast enough where you don't have to stop and shiver. And once again, you always take the top option when given a choice and go in that direction. So everything we've learned so far together, don't be pressing the D-pad when you press circle. Take the top option. And if you're just right, you don't have to shiver. All right, and then straight up into the cave here, and then you can start buffering upright to get up to the Schizo fight. And we are indeed expecting a fight here. If you ever get a fight, this is one of those special case formations. Just remember these enemies. If you ever fight these enemies, they don't do anything unless you do something to them. Same with the faces in the Coral Desert prison. You know, those two faces that sit there and spin around, they don't do anything unless you act on them first. So for these specifically, you don't have to worry about any changes or anything. Just hold R and L and you'll get away. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 into the save point here.